Wrestling fans, are you ready? For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, let's get ready to rumble!
And now, please welcome at this time your hosts, Graham GSM Matthews and RJ Marceau. You're listening to the next era of wrestling radio. This is WrestleRant Radio.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WrestleRant Radio here today for October 17th, 2024. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. We're going to have Mr. Marceau on in a little bit to break down Raw from Monday night and some other news and notes from the last week in the world of wrestling. Did want to open the episode, though, sharing some quick thoughts on the passing of Joe Koff, former Ring of Honor executive, former Ring of Honor COO, as he was someone that I actually had a few interactions with. In person, only once, briefly. A fleeting interaction at a Ring of Honor show many years ago. But that came after I actually interviewed him for the first time to promote, I think, Ring of Honor's 15th anniversary show back in the spring of 2017. Going into that show, I actually interviewed Christopher Daniels, who was going to be challenging for the Ring of Honor World Championship on that show, and Joe Koff. And that was my first interaction, first time knowing of Joe Koff, being introduced to Joe Koff, and he couldn't have been cooler and nicer with his time, couldn't have been more gracious with his time as well. And we had another interview years later, like probably about 4 years later in the pandemic era of Ring of Honor. This was shortly after they relaunched and they were promoting their 500th episode of Ring of Honor TV. And both chats were great. Joe could not have been nicer each time. And I know he was a big supporter of the Ring of Honor brand. And I've heard a lot of stories this past week from people that were in Ring of Honor, worked in Ring of Honor, and how great Joe was, and how he was very supportive of the roster even through the pandemic period and making sure everyone was taken care of and stuff like that. So I was sad to hear of his passing this past week. I think it was due to cancer, which always awful, always terrible. And I think he was, on the younger side as well, 50, 60, something like that years old. And I forgot the exact age in which he passed at, but I saw it was cancer and just thought that was terrible. So just wanted to offer my condolences and thoughts to Joe Koff, his family, friends, stuff like that. Before we go forward here. Also going to be sharing my interview with Caleb Konley here today of Juggalo Championship Wrestling. We had a chat a couple of weeks back. It went up in article form on WrestleRant.com last week. You can hear the audio version right now. The video version's up currently over on the YouTube channel too, and in that aforementioned article over at youtube.com/WrestleRant. But we're going to be talking about his work with JCW, working with ICP, the Insane Clown Posse, who run the promotion, and his history there and their upcoming string of shows, which is going to be kicking off very soon, leading into Halloween, and where you can watch the shows, their promotion, and their future heading into 2025. A very cool chat with Caleb coming up briefly. He's worked in NWA before, Impact/TNA is Caleb with a K. He's been all over the place. He's been a very accomplished pro wrestler in the past decade plus, so it was a very fun chat. We'll be sharing that momentarily. New episodes of the show available every single Thursday on WrestleRant.com, WrestleRantRadio.com. Rate, review, subscribe, all that stuff is greatly appreciated. And also check out our all-new store on ProWrestlingTees.com/WrestleRant. So like I said, a little bit later on in the show, I'll be breaking down Monday Night Raw with Mr. Marceau and some other news and notes from the world of wrestling. But until then, enjoy my exclusive conversation with JCW standout, the current JCW American Champion, Caleb Konley. Graham GSM Matthews here with WrestleRant.com. Special guest here today. We're talking to Caleb Konley, head of the upcoming JCW programming, airing every single Wednesday night on YouTube. Part of an 8-episode run. Live events coming up next month as well. A lot of exciting stuff going on right now with Juggalo Championship Wrestling. Caleb, you're a big part of it. What's going on, dude? Thanks for taking the time.
Yes, sir, man. I'm loving it. JCW is running my life right now. I'm all over the place. I'm promoting stuff, defending this American Championship everywhere I go. It's been a good time.
Well, talk about JCW. Talk about Juggalo Championship Wrestling. How would you describe it in a nutshell for those that are unfamiliar with it?
And if you take all of the craziness of a GCW or old school feel of an ECW, and then add in a rock concert and a Halloween costume contest all together rolled into one. That's what you're going to get. It's a party from top to bottom.
Is the timing like on purpose with this coming up? Obviously, the live event tour kind of culminating around late October, right around Halloween time. I have to imagine that was on purpose, or was that just purely coincidental that this is all kind of coinciding around the fall Halloween time? Kind of going off of what you just said.
I mean, it's not a coincidence. ICP does their annual Halloween show every year for the past 30. I think it's the 31st annual one. So they always try to do a little tour, but like they're really ramping up on JCW, really taking it seriously. I mean, obviously the company has been in existence since the late 90s, early 2000s, but you know, with them being touring rock stars, it's hard to take the time to really make it a thing. But Violent J is like really, really intensely wanting to make JCW one of the biggest companies in America right now.
And obviously, you've been all over the place. We've seen you in AEW before, TNA, NWA, among a variety of places. I've been familiar with your work on the Northeast independent scene the last decade plus doing Northeast wrestling. I mean, you've been all over the place. You're very accomplished. What about JCW kind of drew you to them and appealed you to join JCW?
I mean, I think a lot of people, I mean, maybe not, but for me, I've always, you know, when you do these independent shows, every once in a while you'll come across a show that's at a bar, you'll come across a show that's at like a brewery. And if it feels like the fans are more intense, they're, you know, they might have a couple of drinks in them, they're lively, they want to really chant, they really want to be a part of it. And that's what the JCW show is every single night. It's just craziness. It's if you love fan interaction, if you love a good baby face and a good heel, and you want something to cheer and you want something to boo and you want to be loud, JCW is the place for you.
I think the only, maybe, I don't know how many exactly, but I know the one show that I've been to, not JCW specifically, but like in a bar environment. I don't know if it was a promotion or just one of those wrestling shows that it was a best trivia ever. I think you were involved in it.
I was there, yes.
You were on the card, the Connecticut show, Milford, like almost exactly 3 years ago. So this is something, was that pre-JCW for you? Like how long have you been involved with JCW?
Well, honestly, I did a JCW, a Gathering of the Juggalos in 2010 and then again in 2012. But those were just kind of one-offs. The clowns didn't know who I was at all. I just happened to know somebody who knew somebody that got me on the show. So I knew what I was expecting. Honestly, I've been, you know, keeping up with ICP and JCW since high school, before I was even in professional wrestling. So I knew what I was getting myself into, and it was kind of something I always wanted to be a part of. It definitely has that feel of old school ECW, but just even crazier than that. And I was always, you know, when I was real little, back in like, when I was like 10, when I got into ECW, you know, I'd sneak it. My mom didn't even want me watching it, but I would sneak it when she was out of the room. And it gave me that same feeling as when I did when I was 10 years old watching, you know, old Sabu and Rob Van Dam stuff.
How was meeting them like? Having grown up a fan of theirs, of the Insane Clown Posse, obviously, you know, mentioning, you know, kind of your obviously own roots in wrestling and kind of bringing those two worlds together, I'm sure is surreal. What was your own expectation and experience meeting the group for the first time, the Clowns for the first time?
You know, man, like they're just people just like everybody else. Like they've got a character, they've got a persona that they're portraying in the public. But honestly, like even if you look at any of the other podcasts they do, they're just normal dudes who want to be treated like normal dudes. They're not like over-the-top rock stars. I've worked for an over-the-top rock star. I'm not going to say any names, but, you know, some people are really weird and they want you to treat them a certain way and they feel like they're above you in the wrestling business and in the music business. But ICP they're down to earth. They want to talk to you. They want to mess around. They want to joke around. They want you to shoot straight with them. They don't want to be yes man. Yeah, and you know they don't want to have a servant. They want to have a friend. They want to have people that genuinely care about JCW and that genuinely want to care for them and you know make their product better. And if you're that kind of a person, they're going to give you the world.
And not only are they regular dudes, I mean, these are guys that have been involved in wrestling for a long time. You mentioned doing some of their shows in 2010, but even dating back farther than that. I think anything fan that is not aware of their own promotion, JCW itself, and some of the shows they've done over the years, I mean, they were involved with WWE, WWF as far as the late 90s. I mean, these are guys, and you can attest to it, like that get wrestling. So, like, how can, from your own experience in working with them, especially in recent years, have you seen, like, there's a lot of, like, celebrities, quote unquote, that get involved in wrestling that do not have the slightest clue what they're doing. And I'm sure you've probably worked with a few over the course of your time in the business. These guys seem like the exception to that. What can you say to that front?
Well, I mean, you're very right. They are the exception to that, because before they were even in rap music, they were wrestling. I just watched an interview with RVD the other day, and he was talking about how when he was training, like in 89, 90 or whatever, that Violent J was also there at the same spot. Like, he would, hey, I'm on the side, I'm trying to do this rap thing, and like, they've been around, they put in the work. It's not like they were it's not like they were rappers who got famous and then WWE decided to put them on TV.
Yeah,
they were guys that were getting their ass kicked for $25, $50 on the independents, and then still trying to go out in Detroit and make $25, $50 rapping also. So they were just hustling nonstop all day, back then. But that's the same thing they're doing now. It hasn't stopped. It hasn't slowed down. Like, they didn't reach a certain point and decide, oh, we can just, be cool now. Like, they continue to hustle. Every day there's a new idea. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. There's Violent J is always bouncing new ideas off of people around him.
Mm-hmm. Is it like a conscious decision to make it, maybe not like, oh, how can we do things differently? Maybe not that explicitly, but like, is there the idea there with JCW to make it as different as possible? Because there's so much wrestling out there nowadays too, even with GCW and, like lower level promotions and stuff like that. This is different, but is that the conscious decision to make it different, or is it just different by design?
It's a little of both. I don't think that a Juggalo wrestling promotion could be anything but different. I think that just comes with the territory. I think that we are obviously catering to the Juggalos, but at the same time, we want to have a good wrestling show that is available for anybody who wants to watch wrestling. It's not going to be your cookie cutter show that you might see on a Monday or Friday, and it's not going to be the same thing you see on a Wednesday. And every other day of the week, you're going to see something in wrestling. I mean, there's TV almost every day now at this point, and JCW is going to not be like any of those. So if you're looking for an alternative to the alternative to the alternative, we got you.
I feel like the brewery setting specifically, it is so vastly different than what you see from any promotion, like even some of the aforementioned promotions I had mentioned. But like, it's such a cool environment. And having been to that one show that we had mentioned from like 3 years ago that you were a part of, it's just, it was a wild environment. And there were people on that show that I was familiar with, and I brought my girlfriend with me, and she wasn't really familiar with, like a Danhausen, for example. And he was a part of that. And it was crazy. Like, he was on like the bar or whatever doing his shtick. Like, it's nuts. So like, for you specifically, again, having done really everything in wrestling in all these different venues and high school gyms with Northeast Wrestling to now breweries and stuff like that. Talk about, like, is it something that you have to get used to, or did you feel right at home upon doing it?
Me personally, I felt right at home right upon doing it. I mean, I grew up going to concerts as much as possible. I mean, to this day, like, if I've got a free weekend with nothing else to do, I'm going to try to find a concert to go to. Mm-hmm. I love the atmosphere, the raw energy, the freedom to be able to express yourself any way you want, to be loud, to just go out and do whatever you want to do. To me, that's like the perfect thing for the concert. And it's also, I think it's perfect for wrestling and the fans. Like, I mean, as a professional wrestler, you feed off the energy of the fans. If you go to a show at an armory, or, it could be at an arena, there could be 40,000 people. It doesn't matter how many people. But if they're just sitting on their hands or playing on their phone and don't care, and they're not interacting, if they're not chanting, it makes it a little more hard to, go out there and risk your life on a nightly basis. But if the fans are going crazy, the fans are chanting, they're going nuts, they're jumping up and down, they're having fun, all of a sudden, it makes you want to go harder. It makes you want to, earn what you're getting to. Whatever energy they're throwing at you, you want to throw it back at them.
What's the best concert that you've been to?
The best concert,
or favorite? Well, I guess it could be the same answer.
I just got back from Riot Fest last weekend. I got to see Beck, War, Public Enemy. One of the best live concert I've seen in a long, long time is a band called The Hives, who were pretty popular 20-something years ago.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
They had a couple big hits with they were at the same time as when the White Stripes and the Strokes and all those bands kind of came out, kind of garage rocky stuff. But they're back and they still go. So I was, I knew of them. I'd heard a couple songs, but I'd never seen them live, and it wasn't really on my bucket list of things to see. And my buddy that I went with was like, "You've got to see the Hives," and I was blown away. So if you're going to, if the Hives are coming to your town, you should go.
I'll keep that in mind. They sound familiar. Maybe I'm sure I've listened to their music before, or they've been around here in the Northeast or something, because that sounds familiar. But
you've definitely heard them on commercials or the radio. You'll Google them in a minute, and you'll be like, "Oh, I know 8 of these songs."
Yeah. No, I'm sure I have, because it sounds extremely familiar. But I mean, you talk about going to Riot Fest. Is there anything from an experience like that, and all the concerts that you've been to, obviously, and going back to what you mentioned earlier, that you take from an experience like that you can apply to wrestling, and you're thinking, well, this would be cool for a JCW show, or I can incorporate this into my act or my next match or whatever, just because it's a very similar environments, but I feel like there is some overlap there where there can be more similarities.
Oh yeah, anytime I go to a concert or a festival or anything, I'm constantly looking around, seeing what I like. How would this fit into a wrestling environment, or how is the lead singer talking to the audience? How would that look in a professional wrestling sense? So that's, my mind is constantly working in that way of oh, I like this stage set. Maybe something like this would look good with a JCW logo on it. Something like that. There's always something going on in my mind like that.
Obviously, there's a lot of notable names already involved in JCW. Matt Cross being another one. He's been around the block for a very long time. Just talking about people, because obviously you've been in the business for a long time, about people that you might want to bring into the fold that you feel like would be a good fit for JCW. Just talking to people hey, I'm doing this thing right now, and it's pretty fucking cool. I feel like you might like it or be a good fit for it. Is there anyone that comes to mind? Just thinking about JCW and potential people that could be a part of it.
There's a ton of people, man. One of my best friends for a long time, the Man Scout Jake Manning, who was also
awesome
on
guy.
that brewery show.
Yeah,
I would really he's also the JCW shows that I did 10, 15 years ago. He was also on those, so I would love to get him in the fold. My tag team partner, Zane Riley. Anybody who's got a really over the top, weird gimmick, and they find themselves not really knowing a place to showcase it. Maybe it's Shakara-like, but it's a little too adult for a family-friendly type of thing.
Yeah.
JCW is a spot for it. There's a ton of them. I mean, I could go on all day about. I've got a list in my phone right now of 30 guys that I would this guy would work, this guy would work, this guy would work. That's
cool, and hopefully at some point we get to see them as part of JCW. And as we wind down,
man, I love it.
Yeah, no, especially Man Scout too. I just feel like he'd be the perfect fucking fit. I mean, he's another guy that's been around a long time. He's like an NEW legend, is Man Scout.
Yeah, he just went into the NEW Hall of Fame.
Yes, he did a couple months ago. Yeah, and good for him on that. I feel like him in JCW would be a riot. But as we wind down here, just talking about for JCW's future and your own future as part of JCW, the big plan for 2025. I know we're talking the live event tour leading up to the Halloween event, the Hallowicked event that you mentioned, but going into 2025 and kind of getting more eyes on the product and getting more people buzzing about JCW and lunacy and everything else going on. That's JCW.
You're in the coming months, you're going to see a lot of crossover. Violent J just did a couple dates with Too Tough Tony and GCW. You're going to see more interaction between those two companies. Mm-hmm. I would like to think that there's going to be a lot of interaction with a lot of the local companies on the East Coast. A lot of the companies that would be doing similar type of things. There's going to be some crossover there, and then starting in 2025, I don't have the specifics, but they want the JCW's goal is to run a weekly live show leading up to a monthly pay-per-view.
That'd be perfect. That would be
amazing.
Yeah, if wrestling fans can have something to look forward to every week because we're creatures of habit, I feel like that'd be perfect. Especially in cool venues and stuff like that. I feel like that'd be definitely ideal for 2025. So we'll say there's a lot going on right now with JCW and obviously your own involvement as well. Where can people find you, Caleb, as far as social media and upcoming dates and stuff like that? Where can people support you?
I am leaving for England right up until the tour starts off. So check out my social medias: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Everything is at Caleb Konley. I'll be posting all those. I don't have the list in front of me, but then obviously the Train of Terror tour. There's 9 dates in a row. That's going to be amazing. All that's on the JCW Instagram and Twitter, Juggalo Championship Wrestling, all of those things. Just check out. I'm always posting stuff about JCW and every other date I'm doing. I'm going to try to vlog as much as I can with this tour of England I'm doing also, so that should be fun. I'm just gearing up for 2025 and the future for Juggalo Championship Wrestling.
Cool, man. Well, best of luck with everything. Congrats on all the success. Like I said, as someone that's been following your career since those early NEW days, it's been awesome to see your evolution through all these various promotions, and now JCW, and hopefully I can catch you at the next bar show that you guys do in Connecticut, whether it's Big Time Trivia or Best Trivia Ever or JCW or whatever it's going to be.
All right, man. Watch Lunacy every Wednesday on YouTube.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man. I look forward to checking the show. I appreciate the time.
All right. Thanks, man.
Big thanks to Caleb for the time. Like you mentioned earlier, you can check out that interview also in article form right now over on WrestleRant.com, and the video version of that interview right now over at YouTube.com/WrestleRant. And obviously check out everything JCW is currently doing over on Instagram, Twitter, what Caleb's doing too, as they rev up their tour heading into Halloween, like he said during our chat, which will be culminating on Halloween itself with their Hollow Wicked show in a couple of weeks. So now we throw it to my conversation with Mr. Marceau to talk all things Monday Night Raw. Brock Lesnar may be coming back into the fold. There were some rumors and reports about that this past week. Rhea Ripley's future with WWE apparently being open to an AJ Lee return, and so much more. Mr. Marceau, brother, what's going on?
LGM.
You believe in miracles too?
I mean, I'd rather them win than the Dodgers. So I'm on the hook.
Who's left? Dodgers, Yankees, Mets, and Guardians, right?
Guardians.
Yeah.
I can't believe you made me say that dumb name.
I know. Listen, I was at their game a couple months ago, and I think I said last week I feel like a good luck charm because I was there for their big win against. I think they faced the Tigers that day, I believe, or no, I think it might have been the Orioles actually when I went. But the Indians, as Major League would say, which in that movie, if you go back and I think I told you this, if you go back and watch Major League from like 40 years ago, the amount of references, because it was still the Indians obviously at that point, the amount of like racist gestures in that movie is just, it's so bad. I mean, it's funny, but it's just so fucking terrible. They have like their own section of stuff of fans, and they pretend to be Indians and stuff. It is really bad, but it has not aged well, let's put it that way. But yes, they are indeed the Guardians now. They are still in it. I think by the time that, at this time tomorrow, the Mets might as well be done for if they get squashed again tonight, but we'll see. I still got hopes. I still think Mets can I believe LGM, like you said. So we'll see you tonight. But until then, though, we got some stuff to discuss here. What I do not believe in, not exactly a seamless segue, but I did see this from WrestleVotes yesterday, and then Fightful followed up on it and said not so fast. We got to start with this. Brock Lesnar in talks to return to WWE. And I say return. What I really mean is return to WWE TV. Because he has not been removed, and I see these tweets every once in a while, oh, Brock Lesnar back on the active roster. He was never removed. Internally, he's probably off, I would imagine, but on the website, he's still on WWE.com. I don't know if he's technically under contract to them. It might just be a case of, like, when we want to use him again, we'll bring him back. Triple H kind of made it sound that way at a press conference, I think at the Rumble earlier this year, or at SummerSlam, I forgot when it was addressed. But he is still under contract to the company, technically, and he just has not been seen since SummerSlam last year before the Vince lawsuit came out in January. WrestleVotes had said they were apparently in talks. They were going back and forth about Brock being brought back and whatever. Fightful Select said, not so fast. Brock is not being brought back at this time. They need the, green light from WWE Legal, which they currently do not have. So what's your take on this Brock Lesnar situation? Do you think we would see him anytime soon? And the whole reason why this was brought up, by the way, was because he was subtly referenced on Raw, not once, but twice on Monday night on a tape show when they said something about the Beast. I think Rollins made a mention, and someone else made a mention during a promo on Raw as well in the ring. I forgot who it was, but Rollins was one of them, and someone else did too. And
Cody?
It might have been Cody. I think it was Cody. Because he faced, obviously, Brock and beat him. He actually beat Brock in his last televised match about a year ago. And we haven't seen Brock on the show since. So, do you think that's a sign that we could see Brock brought back soon to WWE TV, or is this just a whole bunch of nothing?
I mean, I think that, like you said, I feel like even on SmackDown, I said, even it was Cody definitely mentioned it because I feel like I can see his face saying it.
Yeah.
I beat a beast.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he says beast so like beast. Like he just says it just like the Cody way. So
yeah, he's got the the lisp
I
or whatever.
His face saying it, so he definitely did say it. I mean,
yeah, you're right.
I'm not against it. I mean, I know he was involved in the whole Janelle Grant stuff, but like, I don't know if they deem it's fine for him to come back. I'd be fine with it. I mean, not like I'm like clamoring for Brock to come back, but I mean, I wouldn't hate it either.
I mean, I was convinced after that whole thing broke earlier this year, I mean, we had talked back in January, I was pretty convinced that we would never see Brock again in WWE, considering the nature of how bad the lawsuit is. Excuse me, and it is still pretty bad. The lawsuit is definitely bad. But Brock's involvement in it is bad, but it seems like over time, maybe I've just not softened my stance, but I've just I can't even really word it as come around to the idea of Brock coming back. I am just more convinced now, based on how WWE has addressed the situation or not addressed the situation, and how Triple H has talked about it in the few instances where he has talked about it, that Brock will be back at some point soon. I just, not even soon, but he will be back at some point. Fightful had made it sound like, in their report, that Brock would be brought back when legal gives him the green light, like I said a moment ago. And that likely would not be until the lawsuit stuff is settled. And it's not even like Brock, I don't think he's even being like, he's not being sued. It's obviously WWE and Vince and whatever else is going on there. Brock was merely mentioned. He was referenced, but it was confirmed that it was him obviously referenced in the lawsuit. It's pretty obvious if you read between the lines there. I guess they would need to wait for that thing to blow over, and it doesn't look like it's going to blow over anytime soon. I think the Janelle Grant stuff was put on pause while Vince was put under federal investigation, so we don't know how long that's going to take. It might be a while before we see Brock again. I mean, it could be another year or two before we see Brock back on WWE TV. I'll rephrase the question to you, too. Not only do you think you'll be back or would you like to see him back, but do you think WWE maybe not necessarily needs Brock Lesnar, but could you see a scenario where come WrestleMania, they're calling upon Brock to come back and they feel like, oh, it's been long enough. Maybe the lawsuit's not over yet. I don't imagine it will be by next spring. But maybe they're thinking it's been long enough. It's been over a year. We're going to bring Brock back so he can face Gunther at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship. Because as we sit here right now and think about possibilities for Mania for that title involving Gunther, not a whole lot of names come to mind. And the names that do come to mind probably are busy doing other stuff. So could you see a scenario where Brock could be back by Mania to face Gunther?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible. I mean, if not, maybe that's when they dust off Goldberg. I don't know, but
oh God, no! That would be the only thing worse than Brock. I mean, I don't know what would be worse, but I think Goldberg they would do another time. I would think.
Okay, yeah.
Not
I mean, I don't
yeah.
hate the idea. Like I said, I feel like that was what we're supposedly going to get this year. So a year later, and I mean, I'm not against it.
Yeah, I mean, again, yeah, like you just said, they were originally intending to do the match at Mania last year. It fell through. They had him face Sami instead. I don't know if that match would have been for the championship or if Gunther would have lost the belt ahead of time. We'll never know, I don't think. But, you know, they did the match and Sami Zayn won. And obviously Gunther's fine because he ended up winning the World Heavyweight Championship. I would be afraid if they did Gunther and Brock that Gunther might lose, which would be terrible. I would be afraid in any situation, and Brock we do not need as World Heavyweight Champion. That would be even worse. But on the Goldberg front, it is worth mentioning that they're not... Well, I've heard conflicting reports. I've heard that it's not penciled in for Survivor Series or Mania, which would likely leave Royal Rumble or even Saturday night's main event if they were to do the match on that show, which I've said before I would be totally fine with. But now I'm hearing other rumors and other reports that they could be looking to do the match on Survivor Series by having Goldberg interfere potentially or go after Gunther at Crown Jewel. And Survivor Series is later on in the month of November, so they could do it at Survivor Series. What would you rather see at Survivor Series between the rumored matches? Gunther and Goldberg? I mean, I guess this is an obvious answer, but that's a rumored matchup. But the other rumored matchup is CM Punk and Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. The risk that you run with that match is that if Punk loses, it's like it kind of halts his momentum a little bit. But he did say before, during the Drew feud, I want the World Heavyweight Championship. So it would make sense the next time that we see him that he's coming after that title. But I don't know. What do you think is the more likely scenario? Gunther and Goldberg or Gunther and Punk for Survivor Series?
It's a great question. I mean, I think it's a great question.
And I guess what would you rather see, too?
I think I'd rather see Punk. I mean, I don't think he's going to win, so, like, maybe... yeah, I think I'd still rather see Punk. Like, Goldberg, honestly, at this point, really doesn't interest me too much. I mean, like I said, maybe if he faced, like, Braun Breaker and got crushed as his, like, last match and got, like, put Braun over, and then we just don't see Goldberg anymore. But besides that, I'm kind of out on Goldberg, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine, like I said before. I'm not, like, eagerly anticipating Gunther and Goldberg, and I bought front row tickets. But, like, if they do the match and they have Gunther kill him, I'm fine. I agree. We talked about it last week. I would prefer to see Goldberg and Braun Breaker. I just feel like Braun would benefit more. Whatever value Goldberg has left, Braun would benefit more from beating Goldberg and getting that quote-unquote rub. But yeah, I don't know. I would be fine if they do it at Survivor Series. I would be fine if they do it at Saturday night's main event. I would be fine if they did it at the Rumble, because it's not about the title matches anyway, and they make it 5 minutes. They did the same thing with Goldberg at the Rumble a few years back with him and Drew. Drew beat him in like 5 minutes. It was like a short, sweet, quick sprint. No fans, so no one really remembers it, but Drew did beat Goldberg. He owns a win over Goldberg from about 3-4 years ago, and that match was for the WWE title. So they could do something similar there. I don't mind Punk and Gunther. I want to see that at some point. I'm just curious how you would get from Punk to Rollins, which they already set up last week on Raw with their quick confrontation, among all the other ways they've set that up and planted the seeds dating back to last year. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. But I would not mind Gunther and Punk as well, because I feel like even if Punk loses, it doesn't really hurt him all that much. Maybe he's in the Rumble and then Rollins and Punk eliminate each other. You could very easily set it up that way. It's not entirely difficult. But on that subject of returns, we talk about Brock Lesnar. On that exact same day, I think this was Tuesday, people were talking about Brock and whatnot. There were also talks, and then coming out of, I think WrestleVotes is like a podcast or something. They mentioned that WWE is also open to the idea. They're open to the idea of AJ Lee returning. Now, I read that and I'm like, well, the sky's fucking blue. No shit. It's not as if, like, there are working plans to bring her back, as far as we know. Because if there were, I feel like they would keep that under wraps. I know you would be in favor of it, so your thoughts on the report that AJ Lee could be on her way back soon to WWE. Not that she is on her way back, but that WWE being open to it, again, I kind of already assumed that. But it does give me hope that maybe if AJ Lee were interested, maybe even in a Rumble spot, we could still see it at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, kind of like sky's blue. I think once Punk came back, I think obviously the door for that opened up and people would be interested in that. I guess it's just kind of the right fit and what you do with her. I mean, I think it's a no-brainer if she's open to coming back. That's a good idea, but I mean, I think it just has to depend on what you do with her. Well,
I guess here's an idea for you. Doing a one-off in the Rumble would, I think, be ideal. Because, I mean, she wouldn't have to do a lot. You get the big pop. People were hoping for that this year. Didn't happen. People were hoping, myself included, were hoping for her to get involved in the Drew Punk feud because her name was mentioned a fucking million times. She never came out. I mean, according to her in an interview that she did with comicbook.com, she doesn't even watch the show whenever Punk is on because she's too afraid for, like, him getting hurt or whatever. So she probably has no clue what's even going on, according to her anyway. And I tend to believe that. So I think bringing her back for, like, a run, I don't think she would be interested in that. Like, I don't see her coming back and feuding with Liv Morgan over the Women's World Championship. I would be all for it, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think a more realistic scenario could be if Punk and Rollins do indeed rekindle their rivalry for WrestleMania, which I feel like is probably going to happen. I think we can all safely assume that. Maybe at some point either before Mania or coming out of Mania, depending on Becky's status, what if we get, and again, depending on who they turn heel and shit, what if we were to get Punk and AJ against Seth and Becky? Now, I think AJ and Punk would be willing to work together. I know Seth and Becky didn't like working together 5 years ago because, like, the fans were fucking weird about it and the booking was terrible. That was when WWE Creative was among its worst periods ever. But I think that could work. Imagine a matchup between Becky, Seth, and Punk and AJ. I think Punk would be down for it. AJ might be willing to come back if she's able to team up with her husband for the first. Not the first time. They teamed up like 10 years ago on TV. But that could be something worth exploring too, right?
Yeah, no, that sounds like a good idea. I mean, like you said, we haven't seen Becky since, I don't know, WrestleMania? I don't even remember last time we saw her. I mean, it's been a while. So.
Yeah, I think May maybe, yeah.
May, so, I mean, I'm down. I think, like you said, maybe putting them in, like, a tag team match would be a easier, like, transition back in than just a one-on-one match. So, I mean, I think that would be pretty must see, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I kind of see it the same way that I did like Beth Phoenix, who never really, after she retired in like 2012, she came back for plenty of matches. She was in a couple Rumbles and teamed with Natalya a time or two, but primarily in the last couple of years, she was teaming with her husband, Edge. They had that mixed tag team match with Miz and Maurice. They had the mixed tag team match when we went in Elimination Chamber last year with Rhea Ripley and Finn Balor. So, I don't know if I don't know if they wanted to use her regardless in like a one-on-one capacity. And she said, no, I don't know. But at least she was willing to do that. And I could see AJ Lee doing something similar. I would be totally down for that. But speaking of Rhea Ripley, I mean, it's kind of old news at this point, but it came out late last week. Rhea Ripley re-upping with WWE. Again, no real surprise there. I didn't even know her contract was up. Maybe it wasn't up. Maybe they were just renegotiating because she's become such a big star. And they just signed her to a bigger deal for a lot more money. So Rhea Ripley in WWE for the long haul. No real surprise there. But just your thoughts on Rhea Ripley not only staying, but her value to WWE at this point as one of WWE's biggest stars, male or female, in either brand.
Yeah, I mean, I think she'd be top 5 overall, just the most over-popular, recognizable star. I mean, I think she's got, like, that star aura to her. I mean, not surprising. I'd love to know how much she got paid.
Yeah, it wasn't reported, I don't think, yeah.
I mean, I'd love to know what that figure was, but, no, I think, whatever she got, I assume is good money and well-deserved, and I think they know they both complement each other really well, and I think it'd be foolish to leave. So, great signing and good for her. Yeah,
no, it makes sense. She's a top star for them, and, she's only 27, 26 maybe? I don't know. Maybe 20. I don't remember. But she just had a birthday, I think, not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. But, she's been with WWE now. It's crazy.
Just turned 28.
Just turned 28, okay. Yeah, her birthday was, like, the other day, I think.
October 11th.
Yeah, there we go. Like, about a week ago. She has been with WWE for the last 7 years. So, she's been there since she was 21 years old. So it feels like she's done everything except, like, main eventing WrestleMania. But there's still so much more that she could do. She just turned babyface, and she's a massive merch mover for them. And she's one of those women, like... And people were down on the idea back in the day, and we would, we would watch the show and we would make fun of it and shit. But like Total Divas was a game changer for the WWE Divas division a decade ago, and it got newer people to watch the show, and it kind of branded that reality audience with WWE. Didn't usher in a ton of new fans, but it did make a difference for sure. And I think Rhea Ripley, not that she's on a TV show and also in WWE, but I think she's one of those people. I know people personally that do not do not watch WWE. They do not watch, Raw. They do not watch any wrestling whatsoever. But they know who Rhea Ripley is, and I think that's also the power of social media and TikTok and stuff like that. And they might, tune in for her or whatever. So she's got that crossover potential, and I say potential, but she kind of already has crossed over. I guess when I say that, I mean like movies and stuff. I'm not sure if that's something that she'd be interested in, but already she's become a big star for them, and she's one of the more must-see aspects of Raw right now. And hopefully, like you said, she got paid. She got paid a lot of money. I don't know what that figure looks like, but hopefully it was a pretty hefty figure to say the least. She was in the main event of Monday's Raw. She teamed with Tiffany Stratton. That sounds random as hell. But they came together via Adam Pearce after they were both attacked by Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, who, in storyline, we still don't know why she linked up with Liv at Bad Blood. We still have yet to hear from Raquel. She's just kind of ominously standing there, so maybe at some point we'll find out why she's with Liv. I don't know. But they did wrestle in the main event. Rhea and Tiffany won by DQ after Nia got involved. Nia got attacked by Rhea on SmackDown last week, so that's why she was there. And then Tiffany attempted to cash in her contract on Liv, and it didn't pan out. So that was really the main event of Raw. It was a taped show on Monday. It wasn't a great show by any means. We'll talk about more of the rest of Raw. But any thoughts on at least like what we got from the women on Raw? They did headline, and we were joking before we hit record here that we got a lot more of the women on Monday's Raw than we did the week before in that 10-woman tag where they were rushed out there for a 10-woman tag team match, and it was like a 5-minute match if you exclude commercials. And they had more of the spotlight this week. The match was fine, but I feel like I'm just kind of waiting, not for the feud to end with Liv and Rhea, but I think I'm just kind of waiting for them to find a way to put the button on it and kind of culminate it, if that makes sense. So your take on the tag team match and where we're going with Rhea and Liv, because we know they're not facing each other at Crown Jewel.
Yeah, no, I think, like you said, compared to last week, the women got a lot more time on this show. They said headline this, and they also opened the show. Bianca and Jade versus Damage Control, which is nice. No, like I said, I thought it was fine. Like, thought like they tied up the loose ends of why Tiffany would team up with Rhea. Was attacked by them. She was coming out to tell her that Nia said you're getting her way again. This was going to happen. The cash in I like. Dominic saving Liv was great. Still don't know why Raquel's with Liv, so I guess we still don't know exactly why, but I thought it was decent. Like I said, I thought the show, it went by pretty quickly.
I'll take a 2-hour Raw any day of the week.
I thought it was a perfect match to end the show, too, so no issues on my end.
Yeah, listen, I say it wasn't a great show, but I will take a 2-hour Raw any fucking day of the week. It's not even close. I said this the other day, but I think I started the show at 8:30, 8:40 or something, and then by the time I caught up, and I skip all the fucking commercials and the entrances and the recaps, all the bullshit, I was live right before they finished. Like, I was able to catch up within an hour, and the show's 2 hours long. So, I mean, I do the same thing with SmackDown sometimes, too. It's just a lot easier. And, yeah, I mean, that not to say it was a bad show, but I'm just saying I will take 2 hours any day of the week. As long as the show's not terrible, I will still take the 2 hours over 3. But I'm already convinced they're going back to 3 on Netflix in a couple months, so it is what it is. But do you think we might get Rhea and Liv on opposite sides of a Survivor Series tag team match? Because like I said, we're getting Liv and Nia, rather, for that Crown Jewel Championship or Crown Jewel. I don't give a shit, but that's what they're doing. They're keeping Rhea and Liv alive in the meantime. I assume we'll probably get Rhea and Raquel on Raw before then. I don't know if you blow it off the feud at Saturday night's main event, but I feel like we are headed for... But here's the thing, though. I feel like we're headed for Team Rhea and Team Liv at the pay-per-view at Survivor Series. But, like, what team would Rhea Ripley even put together? Like, maybe Lyra, but no one else that even makes remote sense that has any issues with Liv right now. I feel like it just goes back to what we've said before as far as forcing these matches. Not even just with the women, but if there's a men's match that does not make sense for WarGames, then just don't fucking do it. But I feel like we're at a point now where they've announced WarGames every year for Survivor Series, and that's a cool concept and all, but then it forces them to do matches that don't make sense. And I guarantee you we're going to get like Liv, Raquel, and Pure Trash Collective. There it is again. I know I shit on them last week. I'll shit on them again here. Nothing against the talent themselves, but their booking is putrid. We're going to get them against like Rhea, Lyra, maybe Zelina, Natalya. Like, who gives a shit, dude? But I assume that's probably where we're going because they don't know what else to do with a women's WarGames match because if we get a men's, we got to get a women's. And I agree with the Rumble, I agree with Money in the Bank, but I don't agree with WarGames. Just do it when it makes sense. And this year, to me, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think it really makes sense. I feel like you said, you do Rhea, Lyra, probably Damage Control, the two of them, and Natalya, I'd assume, versus Liv, Raquel, and Pure Fusion Collective. Like I said, not that I want to see that, but that's what probably is going to happen. No need to be in more games, but I mean, that's seemingly where we're probably said if the men have one, the women have to have one. So I guess that's where we're going. But I mean, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, Triple H has done such a good job of like not watering down concepts for Hell in the Cell and other stuff like that. You know, we already know Money in the Bank is going to stay at pay-per-view. Triple H told us as much 2 years ago at Survivor Series during that press conference, and you can't challenge someone to a Money in the Bank match. Of course, Hunter, that makes sense. So that's never going away. But the WarGames, though, you could absolutely wait until the match makes sense to do. Now, they will be doing one with the men, obviously, because they, first of all, announced it as a WarGame show. Secondly, they took the steps towards doing that on Monday's Raw and last Friday's SmackDown. So Jimmy Uso and Roman Reigns, we know, reunited to Bad Blood. They were outnumbered by the Bloodline on Friday's SmackDown. Jimmy Uso losing to Solo Sikoa in the night's main event. And then on Monday's Raw, we saw Jimmy Uso attempt to confront Jay backstage. Jay logically said, no, like you fucking made my life a living hell for over 6 months. Why would I immediately forgive you? And then walked away. We know where this is going. The big pop's going to come one of these days where Jay makes the save for Roman and Jimmy. They'll mend things over. And Triple H, to his credit, in this 2-year run of his, he has done nothing better than the amazing reunions that we get under his belt. Whether it be Owens and Sammy or like Roman and Jimmy now and stuff like that. He does the reunion stuff extraordinarily well. And I feel like we're going to get that one of these days with the Bloodline heading into Survivor Series. So your thoughts so far on what we've seen on the steps they're taking towards reuniting the OG Bloodline and getting towards that men's WarGames matchup in November?
I mean, I already have my popcorn ready. I'm ready to lap this up. When I saw Jimmy on Raw, I knew exactly what we were going to get. Like I said, obviously said no, but there's going to be the time that especially on SmackDown, he was like, no yeet. I was like, I can't wait for
Yeah.
it. Like I said, when the music hits and Jay saves them, I'm going to fucking lose my mind.
How do they... We've talked about this before, but then how do they make sense of a fourth partner? Assuming it stays 4-on-4 and they don't throw in a fifth member for no reason on either side. So it would be Tama Tonga Loa, the Tongans, the WWE Tag Team Champions, Solo Sikoa, and Jacob Fatu. So then by our count, that would be Roman and the Usos. Who's the fourth member? Is it Cody Rhodes? Is it,
No.
Sammy? I mean, hopefully not Cody. I'm hoping
I
he's
hope
done
it's
with
Sammy
Roman.
is what I'm hoping for.
So, do you think they could... this is my idea. That they could... Jay could be like, listen, I don't like either of you guys. You made my life a living hell, whatever. And obviously they're going to apologize and whatever. But do you think that he might go, listen, I will help you out, but I'm bringing Sammy too. As long as I know I have someone I can trust. I can't trust you guys right now, but I know I could trust Sammy. If you accept him, then I will help you out. Do you think there's a situation?
Give it to me.
I feel like that would make sense.
Give me it.
Get Sammy back in the bloodline. They do their little handshake,
Or
and
like you said, or like Jay knows, like he's gonna, like he's willing to help them. He's like, well, I need help, and then he convinces Sammy to help him.
and they have to be convinced to I mean, Jimmy's probably whatever, but Roman has to be like, I don't know if he'll apologize to Sami Zayn, but that has, that fence has to be mended as well.
Ugh, just like I said, just give me all of it. Serve it up on a platter.
No, I agree. My only concern is that they may not have enough time between now and then to do all of this, but Survivor Series is on November 30th. But honestly, at the same time, if you have this story play out between Raw and SmackDown, because technically, not that they give a fuck about the brand split anyway, but technically, I don't think Jimmy and Roman are signed to SmackDown. They were never drafted to SmackDown. It was never made clear they signed with SmackDown. So technically, they could appear on Raw and interact with Jimmy or Jay there, and not have this exclusively play out on SmackDown. And then obviously Jay appearing on SmackDown, at this point, they don't even care about the brand split stuff, so it doesn't even matter. But I feel like that would make sense. I feel like at this point it's got to be Sammy. I did say Cody a couple weeks ago, but I feel like it'd be stupid to have Cody busy with Owens and Orton, and then he takes a fucking break from that to team with the Bloodline again? For what reason? Like, he helped out Roman at Bad Blood, they won, why would he go back to that? That would just be stupid. But speaking of the Owens stuff, I did not bring that up last week. I honestly totally forgot about it because it did not happen on the show itself at Bad Blood. He attacked Cody Rhodes after the show. And if there was any question, is the guy a heel? Were they just fighting like friends? He made it clear on SmackDown they are not friends anymore, and he beat the shit out of Cody, or he attempted to beat the shit out of Cody again, and he beat the shit out of Randy Orton. So that heel turn has been solidified for Owens. Your thoughts, and not only Owens finally turning heel, but the approach they took to not even showing it, and Owens said on Twitter the other day he wanted to explain himself, but WWE said no. The approach they're taking has me really intrigued because it's so different from anything else that they've done before, at least from what I know.
Yeah, no, I thought everything they did on that end, like you said, pretty much the fan cam's all we got of it, and I thought it was just something different and unique, and I thought it came off well, and I mean, I like what they're doing with Owens. I feel like just obviously a better heel. I'm down for all of it, honestly. Yeah,
I think it's cool. I feel like, again, we're not getting Cody and Owens at Crown Jewel because, again, we're getting Cody and Gunther at Crown Jewel due to the whole champion versus champion thing. At Survivor Series, what do you book? Is it Cody and Owens again one-on-one in a rematch from Bash at Berlin, or do you do the triple threat because you saw Owens beat up Orton last week on SmackDown, and we get Orton, Owens, and Rhodes for the WWE title on that show?
I would keep it just to Cody and Owens.
Okay.
I feel like with Orton, I feel like it has to be one-on-one against Cody. I don't want to see him in a three-way.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you still, even though Owens turned heel, that doesn't eliminate the possibility of him still going heel at some point, right? Orton, that is, before WrestleMania or in time for WrestleMania?
Yeah, I think he'll still go heel somewhere down the line.
Well, I was going to say in time for Mania, but if we get Rock and Roman, then that's probably not happening. I don't even know if it's worth addressing. I'll mention this quickly, but this report came out as soon as we were done talking last week that Rock is not scheduled for WrestleMania. That is the dumbest fuck. I mean, obviously Rock he refuted that rumor on his own Instagram, and Rock doesn't refute anything. He went so far as to say, don't believe the bullshit. Unsurprisingly, that came from Dave Meltzer. He said, oh yeah, Rock isn't scheduled for Mania. Then what was the fucking point of having him at Bad Blood and then teasing this stuff with Roman and Cody and whatever? We talked last week about why the triple threat would be a stupid idea, and I still maintain that would be a dumb idea. But at least Rock will be a part of the show. I mean, WrestleMania doesn't need The Rock. I think WrestleMania they could do without The Rock. But I would be shocked if Rock was not a part of that show. Why would they plant the seeds a year out for a match that he said he committed to, and then he took up, a production for fucking Jumanji 6 or something instead of doing Mania? I would be shocked by that.
Oh god, that got a good tickle out of me. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, like you said, doesn't really make much sense. But I mean, he's The Rock. I guess, like you said, like anything can come up, I guess. But I think if you're gonna tease it, you kind of have to go all the way. So I'm hoping that if he's coming back, he came back, I would assume I would see him at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, I would be stunned if he did not commit to something on that show. And he said himself a year ago, go back and check the footage. He said to Pat McAfee, oh yeah, it's not a scheduling thing. I control the schedule, which doesn't explain why he was gone for fucking 7 years, but whatever. If he controls the schedule, then there should be no issue with him appearing at Mania, wrestling at Mania, regardless of what the matchup is, whether we want to see that matchup or not. I will fucking eat my hat at Mania time if Rock is not on that show in some capacity. I will eat my words and say, Dave Meltzer, you are a fucking genius, you are a prophet, Rock is not indeed there. But I also would find it hard to believe if Rock would refute that rumor and say that he is not coming back, and then he is indeed, or, that he's not coming back, and then he would actually not come back. That would just make Rock look bad, but I don't think that's going to happen. Speaking of coming back, we saw on Raw this week as well, War Raiders returned. I know you probably don't give a shit, but I want to get your 2 cents. Their first time back on the show in about a year, the former Viking Raiders. They teased the Viking stuff initially, and then they changed the Tron to War Raiders. We have not seen the War Raiders in over 5 years since they arrived in the main roster. They were repackaged as the Viking Experience, the later Viking Raiders, within their debuts. We never saw the War Raiders on Raw or SmackDown, but they're back now. They won a tag team title tournament matchup on Monday's Raw. I don't know what the brackets look like exactly, if we're getting like a standard tournament or like qualifying matches, I'm not sure. But they won their match with Easy against Alpha Academy on Monday night. They got the old music back as well. I thought it was a step back in the right direction. Whether you care or not, I think we can agree that this is a good step for the tag team division because they need more depth. So your 2 cents in the return of the War Raiders on Monday night. That's what I was saying.
I mean, I honestly not a big fan of them, but when I saw the name change, I'm like, okay, maybe they'll actually do right by these guys. And I thought came off better the match, and they crushed Alpha Academy. But I mean, I thought I was nice to see them back because, like I said, I feel like maybe this is gonna be more like what we expect them, more like NXT, not like the whole fucking Viking Experience. Yeah, Viking Raider shit.
I'm curious if they're going to change the names back, because they were not Eric and Ivar in NXT. They were like Hanson and Rowe. But they did get the CFL Money music back, though. They gave them their old theme back, and I would enjoy it while it lasts, because I think it might be 3 or 4 weeks, right, before they get the Def Rebel treatment, and they get a fucking terrible song, a terrible song with This Is War opening the theme song or something like that.
I hope.
That's the Def Rebel specialty, where you open with a phrase or a catchphrase, like it's Tiffy time, which hers is actually one of the better ones, but there's plenty of them where they open with their name, or they have to, specifically with the women for some reason, like Zelina Vega. What's the point of that? I don't get it.
I like it.
Is that the new glass breaking, the glass shattering of Stone Cold? Do we really need to be told who this woman is? If you get her over, then having her open her song with her fucking name shouldn't matter. I've always thought that was stupid.
I mean, I get it. Like you said, I feel but I don't know. Like they said, the Tiffy Time one's good. The Zelina one, maybe just so people know who she is. I have fucking no idea.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get it though. I mean, like I said, it's just kind of brand awareness.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Specifically with the women, I feel like they get lazy. But it was confirmed that they are wrapping up with Def Rebel whenever their contract is up, whether it be the end of this year. I don't know when that contract expires, but they're moving on from Def Rebel. I can only hope whoever they bring instead will not be worse than them.
It'd be pretty hard to be worse, so I hope not either.
Hey, listen, they've done some gems, but I mean, listen, the Roman song is amazing, and they obviously had a hand in that. I can't just give them credit for the bad stuff and not the good stuff, but it would be pretty difficult to be worse than Def Rebel. I mean, some of these songs are just so fucking generic, and we were reminiscing on some great songs before we hit record here from the Jim Johnston era. Jim Johnston is not coming back, but it would be more difficult to to get any worse than Def Rebel. Some of the songs they put out, some of the trash they put out in the last 5-6 years. Last couple things from Raw here. You mentioned the WWE Women's Tag Team title match. I thought it was a good match. I was honestly kind of bummed that Damage Control did not win the belts on Monday night. We did not get new WWE Women's Tag Team champions. Bianca and Jade did retain. a good match while it lasted. I was thinking, I'm still hoping Damage Control gets another shot, because I feel like they are the team to take those titles from Bianca and Jade, because I don't really know who else it would be. And I don't think it's going to be Chelsea and Piper. I don't think it should be Chelsea and Piper. They're a good team. I don't think it should be them. Hopefully they run this back, and Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend, they cost Damage Control the win on Monday night. So I'm hoping Damage Control, being protected in defeat, get another opportunity and take those titles. So your thoughts on the match and where we're going with Bianca and Jade as tag team champions?
Yeah, I mean, I like Damage Control. I like Bianca and Jade as well. This is a good start to the show. Kind of start with, like you said, the most recognizable women on Raw, which is nice. I thought it was a good match. Like I said, Lash Legend, Jackson cost in the match. Should get that going. But overall, I thought it was a good start to the show, and I like both teams. So I think Damage Control should be the ones that take the belts off them. But I mean, I'm not mad that Jade and Bianca just won them back from Fire and Dawn, so it makes sense to hold off a little bit longer. Yeah,
and like we've said too, I just feel like it's so obvious at this point they want, and I would be shocked if they didn't, but I feel like it's so obvious at this point they want to do Bianca and Jade at Mania. So they're going to have to stretch this out for as long as possible with them as partners before they drop the belts and they start teasing tension. I will say I'm looking forward to Bianca and Jade, but I think moreover than anything, I'm looking forward, which I don't know when the last time this would have been, of us getting a women's match at Mania that's a singles match with no championship on the line. Unless one of them wins the WWE Women's title in the meantime from like Tiffany or Nia, which I don't think is going to happen before then. We might get a singles women's match at Mania for not a championship for the first time maybe in like 20 years. And that would be since like the fucking pillow fight days and the cat fight shit. If you don't include that stuff, I don't think we've
good stuff.
Oh, that's the worst stuff. If you don't include that stuff, I don't think we've ever gotten a singles non-title match with the women at Mania, and this could be it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The mind's thinking, and I got nothing right now. I'm just kind of spinning right now.
I mean, all the best women's matches were all for championships, I think.
Was Trish ever on there, like, recently? Probably not.
Well, they had that 6-woman tag at Mania a couple of years ago with Trish and Lita and Becky, but that was a, 6-woman tag, though.
Let me type in...
They did Lita and Becky, but that was for a title, and it wasn't at Mania. Trish and Charlotte, but that wasn't at Mania either. So, Trish and Becky last year was a great match, but it wasn't at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I typed it in, nothing came up. It sounds about like, I guess so, yeah. I mean...
It's kind of crazy it's taking this long, really.
I mean, I'm trying to think, like AJ and Paige versus the Bella Twins. That was a tag team match.
Yes, yeah, Mania 31, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean...
A lot of tag team matches.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah.
So, I think that could be it. I feel like obviously it won't main event the show or anything, but that would be a great attraction, and I don't know if they would... I don't know if you want to promote that, because it would be like, why the fuck did it take this long? But it would be a nice stat for, people to bring up on podcasts and stuff like that. So hopefully that does happen. They don't add a championship in unnecessarily, because I feel like that match, if they do go in that direction, does sell itself. Last thing here for you, Mr. Marceau. We found out on Raw this week that next week on Raw, Bron Breakker is getting his rematch for the Intercontinental title. Now, I know you're shaking in your boots. Jey Uso may not be holding on to the championship for much longer. How do you book this match? Does Bron get the belt back? Does Jimmy Uso come out and help Jey retain, and that's his way of getting in the good graces of Jey Uso? Is there a DQ finish? How do you book this next Monday night?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all really depends on SmackDown. Like, maybe you kind of plant the seeds again a little bit that Jimmy's trying to get Jey. Maybe get some bloodline interference, and like you said, maybe Jimmy helps him and he retains. I'm not quite sure. I have a feeling he's just going to lose the belt back to Bron.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what happens. Maybe like I said, the bloodline gets involved, helps Bron basically beat Jimmy or beat Jey, and then that kind of pushes Jey to come help them. So I don't think he'll win. It was nice for his 3 weeks of being champion, but if I was putting my money on it, I'd say he's losing the belt.
Yeah, I mean, he should probably lose clean, too, right? Like, obviously, Jimmy's not going to cost Jey the win. That would be stupid if he's trying to get back in his good graces. But I just feel like it's less about Jey in the sense that if you have Bron lose clean twice, he's not ruined, but I do feel like it does damage his credibility a little bit, because first of all, I don't know where you would go from there. Second of all, I just don't think he should be losing to Jey Uso twice. One thing was that's fine. It's a great moment, good match. They should have a good match next week. I don't know. I just feel like Braun Breaker should not be losing to Jey Uso twice. He should get that belt back next week. And if he doesn't, they could do a DQ finish and build to a third match, maybe a crown jewel or something. And I also don't think, for people wondering, because I remember when Jey won the belt a month ago, people were like, oh, he's not going to be involved in the Bloodline stuff now. What does winning the Intercontinental title have to do with the Bloodline? He could still appear in that match as the fucking IC champion. That doesn't really make a difference. He could be feuding with Braun Breaker while also reuniting with the Bloodline. And the OG Bloodline. And it's not like he's appearing on SmackDown for good, like being traded. Like, he could just help them out and then go back to Raw. So, do you think Braun Breaker can sustain a second loss to Jey Uso? How would you book him specifically going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, like I said, that's kind of why I'm leaning to him winning here.
Yeah.
Not that he can't afford a loss. Like, he can definitely afford to lose. I just feel like I wouldn't love it. So that's why I'm kind of just leaning to Jey losing it here. And then, like I said, just shack up with the Bloodline guys. I feel like that's just kind of where it's going. He can hold the belt, but I just feel like it's not totally necessary. I feel like him getting the win was kind of like getting his moment. It was just winning the belt, just in general.
Mm-hmm. And proving that he could do it without.
I never expected him to hold the belt for long. If you thought he was going to hold it for long, I'm sorry, but I don't think he's gonna. Not that big Jey Uso fan, I don't think he really needs to hold it for long. I think it was kind of just like showing that he could finally win was kind of more how I saw it. Like, finally got the big one. He finally was able to do it. I don't think he needed to hold the belt long. I don't think he should. So that's why I think he'll lose it back to Braun on Raw.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I feel like that was to establish that Jey could do it on his own. It's in his fucking theme song. Oh, I can do it on my own. I'm on my own now, Oos, blah, 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 blah. And he did. He won the championship on his own, didn't cheat, didn't have help. He established that he's successful as a single star, and not he's going to go crawling back to Jimmy, but they can reunite for a one-off and then reunite, like as a full-time tag team at some point down the road. I would not do that anytime soon. I think Jey is perfectly fine as a top-level babyface on Raw right now. But yeah, it plays into the story. Getting Sammy in there would be great too. We mentioned that. And listen, you'll be the first one to have in mind, Mr. Marceau. When that music hits, when Jey music hits on SmackDown one of these weeks, I'll have an ambulance on standby for you over in Mass.
Oh, I'd go fucking crazy.
Ooh, so wait, how does his theme song start? Is it Uso or is it... Do Jimmy's and Jay's theme song start with Uso? I think so, right?
I think so, doesn't it? Yeah, it's just me, Uso. Yeah, his starts with Uso. Jimmy's doesn't start with it. It starts the...
Oh, right. Yep.
It does the piano first. Jay's is the Uso off the rap.
That's what it is, yes. It starts with the da-da-da-da-dun-dun-dun-dun. Hey, listen.
I was born again.
I was marking last week. They played the music. I'm like, thank fucking God they did not change this song. Def Rebel, we just shit on them 5 minutes ago, but that's one of their few gems was that Jimmy Uso single song, and hopefully they don't get rid of it because it's such a good song. And
that's literally one of the best ones. Get rid of it.
It's one of the best ones, and it's one of the few things that gives him an aura on the show. So, it might not be a rock-esque pop, but it's better than nothing. It makes Jimmy Uso worth watching on TV when he's not with Roman Reigns.
Legit.
I agree. New episodes every week, every Thursday, WrestleRant.com, WrestleRant.radio.com, all the usual podcast platforms. Rate, review, subscribe, all this stuff greatly appreciated. We'll catch up next week, Mr. Marceau, and like you said, say a prayer for the Mets. LGM, baby.
LGM.
Join Graham, GSM Matthews, and RJ Marceau every Thursday as they run down their weekly wrestling rants, offer expert analysis, host exclusive interviews, and more. Subscribe today on all your favorite podcast platforms and never miss an episode of WrestleRant Radio.